The whole village said that when Adaeze was born, the gods must have been in a generous mood. They gave her beauty that could stop a warrior in his tracks and kindness that could heal a broken heart. But they forgot to give her parents who would love her. The day Adaeze turned 18, her mother sold her to the slave traders for 50 silver coins. Adaeze was carrying water from the well when she saw the men with chains waiting outside her house. Her mother, Ngozi, stood beside them with money in her hands and no tears in her eyes. "Mama?" Adaeze whispered, the water pot falling from her hands and breaking on the ground. "You have eaten our food for 18 years, her mother said coldly. "Now you will work to pay us back. These men will take you to the big city." But Adaeze knew what those chains meant. Her own mother was selling her like a goat at the market. "Please, Mama," Adaeze begged, falling to her knees. "I will work harder. I will eat less food. Please don't send me away." Her father, Okafor, came out of the house and spat on the ground. "Stop crying. You think your pretty face will save you? At least now you will be useful." The slave traders laughed. "Don't worry, old man. A girl this beautiful will make us rich." Adaeze looked around the village. People were watching from their doorways, but no one came to help her. Some women were even smiling, happy to see the beautiful girl finally suffer. "Help me," Adaeze cried out. "Please, someone help me." Old Mama Kemi stepped forward, but not to help. "This is what happens to girls who think they are better than everyone else," she said cruelly. The slave traders grabbed Adaeze's arms and started to drag her away. She screamed and fought, but she was small and they were strong. Her parents watched without emotion as their only daughter was taken away. But then something strange happened. Just as the men were about to put chains on Adaeze, one of them suddenly fell to the ground, gasping for air. The second man started choking. The third man tried to run, but he tripped and hit his head on a rock. In the confusion, Adaeze broke free and ran into the forest. She ran until her feet were bleeding. When she finally stopped, she was deep in the woods where no one could find her. She sat under a big tree and cried. "Why, God?" she whispered. "What did I do wrong? Why does everyone hate me?" That night, cold and hungry and alone, Adaeze made a promise. If she survived this, she would never again let anyone hurt her. For 3 days, Adaeze lived in the forest like a wild animal. She ate berries and drank water from streams. She slept on the ground with only leaves for a blanket. Her beautiful clothes became torn and dirty. Her soft hands got cuts and bruises from thorns. But on the 4th day, an old woman found her sitting by a stream, washing her wounds. "What is a beautiful girl like you doing out here alone?" the woman asked kindly. "You look like you have been through terrible things." Her name was Mama Neka, and she was a healer who lived by herself in a small hut deep in the forest. She had kind eyes and gentle hands that reminded Adaeze of her grandmother. When Adaeze told her story through tears and broken words, the old woman's eyes filled with sadness. "Your own mother sold you like a piece of cloth in the market," Mama Neka said, shaking her head. "What kind of world do we live in where parents betray their children for silver coins? Come with me, child. You can stay with me. I am old and could use help with my healing work." Mama Neka's hut was small, but filled with warmth and the sweet bitter smell of herbs. It had bubbling clay pots and healing oils. She gave Adaeze food, clothes, and kindness, the first Adaeze had felt since her grandmother's death. Adaeze stayed with Mama Neka for 2 years, learning to heal with plants, read nature's signs, and understand the world in a deeper way. She learned to make powerful medicines and potions for both body and heart. Most importantly, she discovered she had special gifts. She could feel spirits, understand animals, and see things others couldn't. "You have the sight," Mama Neka told her. Adaeze realized the strange things she'd felt all her life, like calming babies with a touch or knowing things before they happened, were not accidents but part of her gift. Her grandmother had the sight too and had begun to teach her the old ways. With time, Adaeze became strong and wise. Her beauty shone with health and quiet power. She trained in fighting, survival, and self-trust. Yet the memory of her mother selling her like an object stayed with her. The scar on her wrist reminded her every night, She would never let anyone hurt her again. Meanwhile, far away in the great palace made of white marble and gold, King Fola was facing the worst crisis of his young life. At 30 years old, King Fola was everything a ruler should be. He was tall and strong, with broad shoulders that could carry the weight of leadership. His skin was dark like polished ebony, and his eyes were intelligent and kind. The people loved him because he truly cared about their welfare, often walking among them in disguise to understand their problems. But now a strange and terrible sickness was killing all the animals in his kingdom. It had started slowly, a few cows dying here and there, some chickens refusing to eat their grain. But within weeks, it had spread like wildfire. Cows, goats, chickens, horses, and even the royal elephants were dying every day. The smell of death hung over every village, and soon there would be no meat, milk, or eggs for his people to eat. The king had not slept properly in weeks. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and worry lines creased his forehead. He spent his days meeting with advisors and his nights walking the palace halls, trying to think of solutions. "My king," said Chief Obinna, his most trusted advisor, during one of their emergency meetings, "we have called every wise man, every doctor, every scholar in the kingdom. They have tested the water, examined the dead animals, and consulted all their books. But nobody can find what is causing this plague or how to stop it." King Fola slammed his fist on the table in frustration. "There has to be an answer somewhere. My people are starting to panic. The merchants are raising food prices because they know meat will become scarce. If we don't solve this soon, there will be hunger and riots in the streets." "Maybe we should look beyond the palace walls," Chief Obinna suggested carefully. "Sometimes the common people possess knowledge that escapes even the most educated minds. A farmer who has worked with animals all his life might see something that a scholar who has only read about them in books cannot see." King Fola nodded slowly. It was worth trying anything at this point. Send messengers to every village in the kingdom. Let it be known that whoever can solve this mystery will be rewarded with gold, land, and a place of honor in my court. The royal messengers traveled to hundreds of villages, beating their drums and making the king's proclamation. In most places, people gathered to listen with worried faces, but they had no answers to offer. They were simple farmers and traders who knew their own work, but had never seen anything like this devastating disease that was destroying their livelihoods. In her peaceful forest hut, Adaeze heard about the animal plague from travelers who stopped to buy healing herbs from Mama Neka. They spoke in worried voices about the dying livestock, the rising food prices, and the king's desperate search for answers. That night, as Adaeze lay on her simple bed of woven grass, she thought about the problem. Her grandmother's voice seemed to whisper in her memory, sharing wisdom from years past. Suddenly, she sat up with excitement. "Mama Neka," she called to the old woman who was grinding herbs by the dying fire. "I know what is killing the animals." The healer looked up with interest. "Tell me, child." "My grandmother once told me about a similar plague that happened in a distant kingdom when she was young. The animals were eating grass that had been poisoned by bad water flowing from mining work upstream. The poison gets into the ground through the water, and the grass absorbs it. If the king moves all the animals to higher ground, away from the river valleys, they should recover within a week." Mama Neka studied her young apprentice with wise old eyes. "You should go to the palace and tell the king this knowledge." "Me?" Adaeze laughed bitterly, remembering her painful past. "I am nobody. I am a girl whose own parents sold her to slave traders. I have no education, no title, no proof of my wisdom. Why would a mighty king listen to someone like me?" "Because sometimes God uses broken people to do great things," the old woman said gently, placing a wrinkled hand on Adaeze's shoulder. "Your pain has made you strong, child. Your suffering has given you wisdom that others do not possess. Maybe this is exactly why you went through all that darkness, so you could bring light to others when they need it most." Adaeze thought about this for many days. She remembered the stories she had heard about King Fola, how he was different from other rulers, how he genuinely cared about his people's welfare, how he sometimes walked among the common folk to understand their struggles. Maybe, just maybe, he would listen to her. Finally, she made her decision. Even if the king refused to hear her, even if his guards laughed at her, at least she would know she had tried to help ease the suffering of innocent people and animals. She walked for 2 long days to reach the royal palace, her feet blistering in her simple sandals. The palace was more magnificent than anything she had ever imagined. Tall white walls that seemed to touch the clouds, golden domes that sparkled in the sunlight, and gardens full of flowers from every corner of the world. But the beauty of the palace only made her more aware of her humble appearance. Her dress was clean but plain, made from rough cloth that marked her as a common village girl. Her feet were dusty from the long journey, and she had no jewelry or fine ornaments to show her status. The palace guards looked at this unknown young woman with suspicion and barely concealed amusement. They were used to dealing with merchants and nobles who came seeking the king's attention, not poor girls who looked like they should be working in someone's kitchen. "What do you want here, girl?" the captain of the guards demanded in a harsh voice. "This is the royal palace, not a marketplace where anyone can come and waste the king's time." "I have information about the animal disease that is killing the livestock," Adaeze said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady despite her nervousness. "I believe I know how to help the king solve this problem." The guards burst into loud, mocking laughter. Several of them pointed at her and made jokes to each other about the foolish village girl who thought she was smarter than the kingdom's wisest scholars. "You?" the captain sneered. "A little village girl thinks she can solve what the kingdom's greatest minds cannot figure out. Listen, child, we have had hundreds of people come here claiming they know the cure. Farmers, traders, even other village girls like you. They all think they are special. We don't have time for more nonsense. Go home before we have you whipped for bothering important people." But fortune smiled on Adaeze that evening. King Fola happened to be walking in the palace gardens, trying to clear his troubled mind after another day of failed meetings with his advisors. The cool evening air and the scent of jasmine flowers usually helped him think more clearly. But tonight, even the peaceful garden could not ease his worry. When he heard the commotion and raised voices at the palace gates, his natural curiosity drew him to investigate. As a king who truly cared about his people, he always wanted to know what was happening in his kingdom, even small disturbances like this one. When he saw Adaeze, something about her made him want to listen. "Let her speak," the king said. "Your Majesty," Adaeze said, "I believe the animals are eating grass that has been poisoned by bad water. Move the animals to higher ground, away from the rivers, and they should get better in 1 week." King Fola stared at her. It was such a simple answer. "How do you know this?" "I learned about plants and animals from a healer in the forest," Adaeze said. That same day, King Fola ordered all farmers to move their animals to the hills. In exactly 7 days, the animals stopped dying. In 2 weeks, they were all healthy again. The king was amazed. This village girl had solved a problem that all his wise men could not solve. Over the next few weeks, he found reasons to talk with Adaeze many times. Slowly, he began to fall in love with this extraordinary young woman. And Adaeze found her heart opening to this kind and noble man. But Queen Mother Adunni, the king's mother, had already decided that her son would marry Princess Amara from a neighboring kingdom. When she heard about the village girl, she became very angry. "You will marry a princess, not some nobody from a village," she shouted at her son. King Fola tried to argue, but his mother controlled everything in the palace. She threatened to remove him as king if he did not obey. Faced with losing his crown, King Fola agreed to marry Princess Amara. But Queen Mother Adunni was not satisfied. She wanted to destroy Adaeze completely. She sent her spies to Adaeze's old village with bags of silver coins. Soon, terrible lies began to spread. "She is a witch," people whispered. "That's how she knew about the animals." "She cursed my family," someone lied. The lies grew worse each day. The village chief, with his pockets full of the Queen Mother's money, declared that Adaeze was dangerous and had to leave. When Adaeze went to her parents' house seeking help, they refused to let her in. "We always knew there was something wrong with you," her father said. "You are no daughter of ours." Standing outside the house where she was born, rejected by her own parents for the second time, Adaeze felt something break inside her heart. The villagers gave her one day to leave forever. They warned that if she came back, they would kill her. That night, Adaeze sat alone in the forest. She had nowhere to go and no one who cared about her. Even King Fola was being forced to marry someone else. For the first time since she was a child, Adaeze cried bitter tears. "I tried to be good," she whispered. "I tried to help people, but no matter what I do, everyone hates me. Why should I keep trying?" All of her pain began to change into something else, something harder and colder. Anger. "If they want to call me a witch," Adaeze said, "then I will show them what a real witch can do." She went back to Mama Neka's hut. The old healer saw that something had changed in Adaeze. "Revenge will not heal your pain, child," Mama Neka warned. "Then let there be darkness," Adaeze replied. "I have tried light, and it brought me nothing but suffering." Over the next few months, Adaeze learned darker magic. Soon, strange things began happening to the people who had lied about her. Mama Kemi's hair began falling out. The village chief's crops failed, while everyone else's grew well. The man who claimed Adaeze had cursed his family watched his children become sick. One by one, everyone who had spread lies about Adaeze found their lives falling apart. The village that had once been peaceful began to decay. But the worst punishment was for Adaeze's parents. Okafor's business collapsed, and he became poor. Ngozi discovered she could never have more children. The couple who had thrown away their only child would never have another. Meanwhile, King Fola's life became miserable. His marriage to Princess Amara was loveless and cold. The princess cared only about jewelry and parties. Every day, King Fola thought about Adaeze and wondered what had happened to her. The king became sad and distant. The kingdom began to suffer because their king was too depressed to rule properly. 2 long years passed. Then one day, a messenger came to the palace with news about a powerful healer in the northern part of the kingdom. "What is this healer's name?" King Fola asked. "She calls herself Ne Omenala," the messenger said, "but some people say she was once known by a different name." Without telling anyone, King Fola set out for the northern region. He traveled for 3 days until he found her house, surrounded by beautiful gardens. When the door opened, King Fola's heart nearly stopped. It was Adaeze, but transformed. She was still beautiful, but now she carried herself like a queen. Her eyes held power and knowledge that had not been there before. "Your Majesty," she said calmly, "please come in." "I thought you were dead," he whispered. "When I heard what they did to you." "The girl you knew did die," Adaeze said quietly. "I am someone different now." King Fola told her everything, how his mother had discovered their relationship and sent agents to spread lies about Adaeze in the village. "So your mother destroyed my entire life," Adaeze said when he finished. "And you let her do it." "I thought I was choosing the greater good," King Fola said, his voice breaking. "But I was wrong. Without you, I am only half the king I used to be." "What do you want from me now?" she asked. "I want to make everything right," King Fola said. "I want to give you back everything that was taken from you." "And what about your wife, your mother, your throne?" "Princess Amara has been as unhappy as I have been. She wants the marriage to end. As for my mother, her interference ends today. And if keeping the throne means living without you, then I don't want it." Adaeze searched his eyes and saw resolve, maturity, and love that had grown stronger through separation. "The people who hurt me have already been punished," she said quietly. "But how do I know you won't abandon me again?" "Because I have learned what life is like without you," King Fola replied. "I choose you, Adaeze, over everything else in this world." At that moment, Adaeze felt the wall of ice around her heart begin to crack. The revenge she had taken had satisfied her anger, but it had not healed her loneliness. Only love could do that. "If I come back with you," she said slowly, "I will not be the same naive girl. I have powers now that some would call dangerous." "I would never ask you to change," King Fola said. "I want you exactly as you are now." 6 months later, the kingdom celebrated the most magnificent wedding in its history. King Fola had kept all his promises. His marriage to Princess Amara was ended, Queen Mother Aduni was stripped of her power, and Adaeze was recognized as the rightful queen. The people loved their new queen. Her reputation for wisdom and compassion grew each day. Even representatives from Adaeze's old village came to beg for forgiveness. Her own parents, now old and poor, came to the palace gates hoping to see their daughter. When Adaeze met with them, they fell to their knees and wept. "We were wrong," her father sobbed. "We threw away the greatest treasure we ever had. Please, can you forgive us?" Adaeze looked down at these broken people who had caused her so much pain. "I forgive you," she said simply, "but you gave up your right to be my parents the day you sold me to slave traders. You will have food and shelter in my kingdom, but you can never be my family again." My besties, what did you learn from this story? Share your thoughts in the comment section and don't forget to subscribe my channel.